Hi everyone, my name's Sid Beach. I have two jobs. I work at NHS Select. Many of you will know that as an associate director with the QI folk there, and I also work for a community trust in London in the QI team and have a real passion for QI coaching. Definitely don't have all the answers. Really keen to hear what all of you have to share today, and I'll be jumping into the breakouts and sharing my own perspectives on some bits and bobs. Thanks, Sophie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sid. And I've got Kerry also with us now. So, Kerry, do you want to just do a quick intro?
Apologies, took me a few minutes to get in with our technology. Hi, everybody. My name's Kerry Blewett. I'm Head of Quality Improvement for York and Scarborough Teaching Hospitals. Again, I've got a real passion for QI coaching to support us in developing our capability and capacity within our organisation. So, hello, everybody. Thank you.
Lovely. So what we'll do first is we're going to just go into a very quick breakout room, and just to say how the session came about. I think Sid, as part of the SIG, sent out a feedback survey for asking all the members of the SIG what would they like to see, and this was one of the highest ranking topic that everybody wanted to hear, and hence we made this as our first short session of discussion around this topic. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go into breakout room. Joraim's help will take us all in for just 10 minutes into breakout rooms. Just from your lenses on whatever roles you do, wherever you are based, what does QI coaching mean for you? And if I can just make a suggestion for everybody's learning and sharing, if somebody takes a little bit of notes to stick into the chat, we won't have a lot of time for individual feedback, but if it's in the chat, we can always share the chat out to everybody after the session. So if somebody takes the responsibility to type in any key points that came up in your breakout room, that would be brilliant. So I hope that that very short discussion was useful. Anybody who ever taken the responsibility of taking the notes, by all means, please use the chat to share. Your discussion will be really useful. So we'll move ourselves on. Hopefully, there were some key points that were raised, within your discussion. What we'll do for the next few slides is just set the scene around what coaching for QI means, and I'm going to hand you over to Kerry and Sid to do that bit of landing the topic in the room again. So over to Kerry first, I think.
Okay, so we just wanted to just share some information around what we feel is the coach. And this slide was developed by the Quality Coach Development Programme, which was funded through Q, which Sid was part of. And the key thing, I think, the first box for me is that passion. We're looking for people who are passionate about quality improvement and who has had some experience of running a QI project, so they understand some of the methodology, they understand the people side of things. And they've got that, what we would probably call the QI bug, and they're enthusiastic to be part of that. They've got that empathy for project teams and they endorse QI for the organisation. The other one which we struggle with is having some dedicated time to support QI, and where we see success around that is where people have got some dedicated time to be able to support people within their local areas and to get that expertise outside of the central team and supporting people outside of that. Obviously, it's a role which we see with many hats. So these are people who coach people, they facilitate, they advise, and they can teach. So we've got many hats within that role to be able to achieve the support that people require. And actually, we work really hard to engage people within networks and teams out there within those clinical areas or services. These people are champions outside of that central team and work across the organisation. And it's that key engagement with people that makes that difference. Developing and nurturing relationships based on that trust and support, which we would all see as absolutely essential for that support, and that actually that they're a go-to person, and it's probably a role that's got a blend of coaching and improvement advice as well mixed together, and they provide that guidance, support and encouragement, and also, like we've talked about earlier, it keeps that momentum. If somebody's around to talk to engage, it keeps that momentum going for quality improvement outside of that central team. So yeah, thank you, Sophia. Can I move to the next slide? I really like this slide out of all of them actually. So this talks about how does a QI coach fit into an organization. So the blue are the staff that we depict as the people who are doing improvement work at varying levels of knowledge in the organization. They often have a basic QI knowledge and need some guidance to apply QI effectively. So that's what we depict by the blue. If I can, might need to hit the button again, Sophia. So then most of us have this central improvement team resource, which is never huge. I'm sure we'll all probably agree. And if we want it to be dependent as a team, we'd make those teams very, very large, but that's not the direction that we want to be. We don't want to be dependent on central teams. And often we see ourselves in that place that people come to us and it doesn't happen unless it comes through us. So we want to create this independency for organizations. And we see, at the moment we have central teams supporting bottom up and top down improvements, small resource. And what we need to do is bridge that gap in between the people, the blue and the central teams. And so we see the coach. So if I can bring in that next part of the slide, it is the coach is to bridge that gap. So they're a key part of the network. We've talked in the previous slide about what that role should look like. They are frontline staff who are trained in quality improvement and who can support teams outside to support them in kind of complementing the improvement team. In addition to that, networks of people out in organisations with those skills supporting others. They are champions. We see them as champions at that local level to continue that QI bug and champion quality improvement, and it'll infiltrate across the organisation. And they basically expand our network of QI support beyond that central team and become a real function to embed quality improvement into the organisation because it's infiltrated out and they have that role to support people and people can know who they are, come to them to get support, and they can celebrate QI as with the rest of us as well. So I think that's my favorite slide. I think it really describes that really, really well. I'll hand on to you, Sid. I think you're next with your slides.
Yeah, thank you, Kay. Thanks, Sophia. And I think it's sometimes good to make a distinction. We were talking actually very coincidentally in our breakout room when we were talking about what QI coaching means to us. Lorraine, you were talking about mentoring and coaching and how we might use certain phrases and maybe sometimes mean the other thing, sometimes mean the right thing. But what is mentoring? What is coaching? Is there a difference? Yes, absolutely. And you can see this is a really nice, concise summary of the differences and similarities, I guess, between mentoring and coaching. So mentoring is often led by, or a mentor is often a very senior person or very experienced person who has that technical or perhaps even clinical expertise, professional expertise, and who meets with their mentee over what can sometimes be many, many years or many, many projects. And we as improvers can find ourselves in this space of mentors where people who are perhaps newer to QI or newer to change in general and perhaps new to a more formal QI role may seek us or seek others as mentors to help them to really find their feet with QI and understand what the role entails and perhaps how they can learn a bit more about the technical side of change and possibly the adaptive side of change. And mentoring is often, as it says there, informal and takes place when kind of the mentee feels it's needed. Coaching is somewhat distinct to that. I'm talking more broadly about coaching in general, not just QI coaching. So it's generally shorter, it's more structured. The conversations and the questions tend to be more structured with a set purpose. And the good news for coaches is that you don't need to have that technical expertise in the area. Often actually having that expertise makes it harder to coach, doesn't it? Because you're more likely to want to give advice, whereas as coaches, obviously, you tend not to. And so you don't need to have that experience in the area. You're much more skilled in, instead of the technical science, the art of being a coach, the art of coaching. And it's a relationship of equals. So just a nice short summary. Again, this is from the resources that were created through the Quality Coach Development Program, which some of you may know, free resource to access. And this, Sophia showed us this, and I really like this. It's to say that if you're not on mute, just pop yourself on mute. I can hear a bit of rustling in the background. But just to say that, you know, there was that table almost making it seem quite binary. But actually, when you look at what is coaching, what is mentoring, and sometimes what is being a bit more directive, I guess, it's a spectrum. You know, there's not, and Kerry, you said about wearing many different hats, and it's so true. Being a coach sometimes means that as a QI coach, you may lean into the territory of being a mentor. Sometimes, at times, you may need to be directive with someone because you need to give them some advice to help them see the wood through the trees, for instance, or to teach them a specific technical tool like a fishbone diagram or a Pareto chart or something like that. So really lovely just to say that it can and will be a spectrum. And this is just building on the idea of wearing many hats. So as a quality coach on that program, we say that as a quality coach, you wear many hats. You're a coach first and foremost, but sometimes you are other things as well. You are a facilitator. You are there to perhaps, Jorém's got so many post-it notes behind him. Perhaps you're facilitating a session with process mapping. And so you're using helping them to navigate the art of creating a process map without getting too distracted or getting too granular or too high level, or, you know, getting the right amount. You're facilitating that as a coach, helping them and creating that space for them. Perhaps you're a teacher, as already said. Perhaps sometimes you're giving advice or a mentor. You know, this is the complexity of being a QI coach, is that you're not one thing, you're many. And when we created these resources from the Quality Coach Development Program, just to say the name Quality Coach is just born out of a document from NHS England where they talked about QI coaches in the phrase of quality coach. It means the same thing as QI coach or improvement coach. So just want to make sure we don't get stuck in the semantics. But from the Quality Coach Development Program, in one of the sessions, we have this lovely visual explaining the similarities and differences between coaching as in exec coaching or kind of development coaching, you know, that kind of more normal, pure coaching that people may have in their careers, how that differs from QI coaching, coaching improvement. And there's these kind of 5 key domains where the person coaching development, as we've already said, is often that kind of senior person trained in a coaching qualification, normally level 5 or level 7, and they tend to be quite experienced in healthcare, perhaps worked in healthcare or the NHS for several decades or a couple of decades. Whereas a QI coach is different in that their experience is much more about change and QI, and they may have kind of a QI coach qualification instead. What the coach for development focuses on is personal growth, whereas what the QI coach focuses on is much more about the change itself, helping the individual or the improvement team to navigate the QI process, the QI journey, appreciating all the complexities that come with that. The how, we all have our kind of coaching frameworks that if you Google coach model, you'll find hundreds and hundreds, won't you? So this is just to say that there is a kind of a way of coaching. It may be something like the GROW model or the coach model, Oscar. We all have our favorites. The distinction between a coach for development and a coach for improvement is that, as well as using perhaps GROW, that's the one that I tend to kind of go towards, as I think it's quite nice and quite simple. But we also obviously have to also factor in the improvement methodology, the improvement science, and the improvement tools and techniques that intertwine with that. So it's a bit of an art to kind of juggle that in itself as well. So we've already spoken about that in terms of coaching development. So that tends to be as and when as the kind of focus on the individual's personal growth, whereas when for the coaching improvement is obviously often based around projects, or if we're moving away from the idea of quality improvement being kind of adjunct to the work, where we have kind of project-based work, instead having more continuous improvement, perhaps looking more at improvement work, then it's you're attached to some improvement work that's happening, and perhaps slowly and steadily stepping back from that as the team builds their own confidence and capability in the improvement itself and the concepts of improvement. And then finally, where does this take place? Coaching development is very typically one-to-one. Coaching improvement, often team-based. I find that when I'm coaching, it's often with a smaller group of people, myself being party to that conversation. probably not speaking that much in the discussion, often listening and just steering the conversation as needed. Where I work in one of my 2 jobs, it's a community trust, covers most of London and Hertfordshire. It might be virtual, so it might be on Teams. There are some complexities to coaching virtually. You miss some of the nuances, don't you? You miss the body language and the tone and the relationship of the room and how things feel. So sometimes where possible, it should be in person, shouldn't it? Logistically, that can be challenging. So just a really brief summary of what's the difference and similarities between conventional coaching and coaching improvement. And then this really lovely chart just to summarize that we're all about building capacity and capability. That is what we're here for, isn't it? That's what improvers want to do. We want to distribute agency for change. We want everyone to feel empowered to fix the problems that they face. And to do that well and to make that sustainable, we need to slowly step back as we coach teams and help them to help themselves in the future, so that when they come around to the second piece of improvement work, they don't need us, or perhaps even the third piece. And that's lovely, but also quite challenging, isn't it, to kind of see those relationships perhaps dwindle slightly. So your involvement will shift over time. It isn't going to be a flat line. It will kind of have peaks and troughs where perhaps as they come to measurement, you needed more, or perhaps as they come to behavioral change, you needed more to help them understand the resistance, and then you kind of step back again. So it's not flat, it's not level, it will have those peaks and troughs, just like the image on the screen.
Brilliant.
Sophia.
So that was just a very quick summary around sort of what coaching for QI might look like and, what it involves. So what we really wanted to spend the rest of the time is just sort of bringing it real for each of you. Everyone is on a different sort of maturity within your organizations and sort of capacity and experience. So we thought it would be really meaningful to go back into breakout rooms and just start thinking around, if coaching isn't there in your organization, what will enable you to bring coaching? And if coaching is there, how is it happening? What's hindering it to get to that maturity? And what can you do individually in your own roles to shift those sort of maturity and the dial in the work where you do your project work, or how you mentor and how you coach within your organization? Everyone has a different sort of approach within, but it'll be good to have that meaningful discussion in the next breakout room. So welcome everybody back. It was really amazing to sit back and just read everything that's come on the mural. We were having our own discussion about how that richness of that information is going to really, really sort of work with everyone sort of contributing. So I think many brains definitely are a real advantage. So what we really want to do next is just, we've got a couple more minutes. Is just think through. We will share all the outputs, like we said. We'll make some sense of the mural boards and the chat for all of you, and we'll send the slides to all of you. But just think for yourself in terms of what you have heard, what you have seen today. What is that one thing that you might want to take away for yourself, and what would those solutions be for you individually for your organization? We're not going to do a much more wider share as a whole group. But maybe just for 1 minute, maybe we can just open up the floor. If somebody's really burning to make a point or wants to share 1 or 2 reflections, then we'll give that 1 or 2 minutes. We can definitely squeeze that in. So if anybody wants to come off the mic, please just do so now, and we'll give you all a couple of minutes just to share your reflection.
I think for me, Sophia, one of the things was time, and we're going to talk about selling the benefits of this role and QI coaching and maybe QI in general next session. So that's, hopefully you're not feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of this and not too kind of negative, but we will get onto that next time. Sorry, I saw Lorraine and Helen, you both wanted to talk.
Yeah, I think Helen's hand's up. Go on, Helen.
I just felt sorry for you as facilitators that no one put the hand up, so I put my hand up without thinking what I was going to say. But yeah, you're right, Sid. Time came up as a big thing in our group, and we discussed that is always the thing that comes up. We said support from senior leaders, whether that's execs or other senior leaders in the organisation, access to training initially so that people have got some steer as to how they do things, and that role clarity as well, not just role clarity as in the QI team, but role clarity across the organisation. So I know we're talking about coaches today, but in our organisation, we've got an academy, we call them fellows, that have got particular roles as well, and they know what that entails. So that was what we discussed in room 2.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Helen. Okay, so we'll move ourselves to the next slide, please, Sid. So this is just a sort of the kind of where we go from now. So definitely, if you're not a member of the Coaching SIG or even Q community, please, by all means, we would welcome you to join. And also, if any of you are interested in joining Sid, Kerry and myself in sort of any of the future sessions, we are very supportive. We are very creative in the way we've designed, this session, and we'll do it as a teamwork. So again, if anybody is interested in joining us, please bring your wisdom, or even if you don't have anything contribute, just come and join us, because there's always learning and takeaways, for each of us. Our next session, I think, Jill, you asked in the chat, our next session is Wednesday, 17th of April, again from 12 to 1:30. We've kept that one a slightly longer. And the topic that we're going to look on that session is selling the benefits of QI coaching to leaders. And I think quite a lot of the enablers and the challenges both have come about, that senior leadership board sign up, executive team signing up, but also how do you widely sort of share and, bring and highlight the benefits of QI coaching. So we want to design something around that. I think a lot of your feedback from today's session is going to contribute to that sort of the contents. But if anybody has got anything else to add to us, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear if there's any specific things you'd like to add to that session on the 17th. Just take us to the next slide. So there was a few topics that came up as a topic of interest, which is on the next slide. And this came up from the survey, that was sent out to the members. And you can see we've just rated them in terms of what sort of was the ask from number of people asking for those sessions. So again, we kind of have a plan over the next few months to bring a program of Learn and Shares together. But if there are any other topics you think are missing, please, again, do get in touch with us. And again, if anybody wants to sort of join us in designing these sessions and delivering, you're most welcome. So that's pretty much us for today. So we'll probably want to say thank you, everybody, for all your time. It was really valuable conversations and discussions that have come out, and hope this was a useful session